Now, your Sunday night is almost certain to be disturbed by the census people calling. It's a criminal offence not to fill in the form, but the reality in London is that a lot of people didn't last time, and that had a serious impact on the money allocated by government to the capital services. As Andrew Cryan reports.
Londoners are the least likely people in all the country to fill in their census forms. Kensington and Chelsea, Britain's richest borough, is the worst offender. Here, 1/3 of people were missing from the last census.
I think that's because of it's probably more diverse than any other city. We speak 300 languages here. We have a higher turnover of people. There's a whole multiplicity of reasons. But that means that we should work harder to get it filled in.
I was under the influence.
Planning for a city as fast-moving as the capital can be difficult at the best of times, but without proper data, things are even more difficult. What's more, because the government allocates money according to population figures, it's claimed that London could lose £600 worth of funding for every one of us who doesn't fill in the forms. Ibrahim Dogus encourages Turkish and Kurdish Londoners to fill in the forms.
Because they have suffered from the hands of authorities in the countries they come from, they tend to not give out information about themselves, about their families, to any authorities. It doesn't have to be the national authority, but anything local even. They've always been, looking at it suspiciously.
But while some of us don't fill in the forms through neglect, others actively refuse. This year, the arms company Lockheed Martin are helping to collect and store the data. An online campaign to boycott the census because of this is expected to make an impact. But some people have other objections too.
Questions about religion, questions about sexual orientation, how many families have you got? I quite honestly believe that they are prying far deeper than they need to. And take the risk and don't fill those questions out.
So that's what you'd urge Londoners to do if they don't like it?
I wouldn't urge anybody to do anything as far as the census is concerned, apart from fill it in, because it's a criminal offence if you don't. And far be it from me to encourage people to engage in criminality.
So hold your nose and do it?
On some of the questions. Or then again, follow your conscience and don't answer it. I believe sexuality and sexual orientation is a private and personal matter.
But if you see the census as intrusive and big brotherish, be warned. Leaving information out of your forms is illegal, albeit not a crime you're likely to be punished for. Despite tens of thousands of people in London not filling in the forms last time, only 38 people in all the country were convicted of committing a crime.
Andrew Cryan reporting. Joining me here, Jules Pipe, who's the leader of Hackney Council and also the chair of London Councils, representing all those authorities in London, and Simon Hill, who's the associate director of the think tank Ecclesia. Jules Pipe, why so many? It's up to between 1/3 and 1/4 in some of these boroughs, not registered on the census. How much of a difference does it make? Because councils, you have got other records like council tax, haven't you?
But unfortunately, you're not allowed to use those records and just ask the government that we have so many people in need, please give us the money to meet that need. Instead, all local boroughs rely on the census data, telling government how much money it needs for vital services. And that means that when so many people in London don't fill in the census, not just millions, but billions of pounds don't go to public services in London because people don't fill in the form.
This has been for a decade. You would be saying, without question, across London, that London councils, us London services, London infrastructure has been underfunded.
Absolutely. In my own borough, just my own borough of Hackney, the local health service, just for my borough, foregoes probably about £40 million, and the council loses about £17 million that it could use to deliver local services.
But what can you do about it? I mean, we've heard it's a criminal offence, but we know the kind of transient population London has. What can you do about it?
Well, it's absolutely vital that people fill in this census this year so that London doesn't have another decade of woeful underfunding of its public services, both council and the local health service. That's why we're putting so much effort in, door knocking on many of the houses. Many homes have larger families, 7 or more people. The census only has 6 boxes, so we're having to go to all those homes, make sure they have additional forms to fill in so that everyone is covered. And there's a lot of work going into this to make sure that that London gets the money it's due.
Simon Hill, from your think tank, are you encouraging people actually to break the law, not fill in the forms? You don't think people should?
We're not encouraging people to break the law, but we are raising serious concerns about the fact that the census contract has been awarded to Lockheed Martin, a US-based multinational arms company. That has triggered a boycott.
So you're calling for a boycott? Isn't the effect of a boycott, if people don't fill them in, that you're...
It's triggered a boycott. At Ecclesia, we're saying we respect the fact that some will choose to boycott. We respect those who choose not to, but we would encourage people to register their opposition to Lockheed's involvement.
Aren't your concerns about who the contractor that might be doing it, aren't they outweighed by the picture we've just heard the leader of London Council paint for you?
There's lots of issues here, and I take Jules's point about the services. That's why, you know, I've decided to boycott, but I haven't come to that conclusion lightly. I've reflected in some depth. I know other people who've considered it, but decided arguments about services outweigh it. However, with Lockheed, we're not just talking about a contractor that might be slightly objectionable. We're talking about one of the world's biggest arms companies, supplies interrogators to Guantanamo Bay.
And you're not the only people, because there's been an internet campaign, a number of people are saying they don't like the intrusiveness of the questions. We heard a deputy mayor there saying they don't like you, almost suggesting, not quite, don't fill in an area or a question you find too personal, Jules Pipe.
Well, the key thing is that people do return the forms. However they fill them in, they need to be returned, and particularly if they're a family with any needs, they need to fill them in.
Sexuality? Do we even need to know about people's race anymore?
But there isn't a question about sexuality. That was wrong, was the allegation that was made.
Oh, well, then he stands corrected.
To encourage people not to fill this in would be like if Lockheed Martin got into the healthcare business, it would be like encouraging patients to refuse treatment from the health service on that basis. We're encouraging to encourage a boycott means that some of the most vulnerable people in London will be going without services because there won't be enough money to pay for them.
You just need to find another way of doing this that makes people feel more comfortable. For a start, not have this private company doing it.
Well, I'm not here to defend Lockheed Martin. This was a contract that was let 2 years ago by the national government, and I certainly have no interest in defending that side of it.
So
I'm just here to make sure that to encourage as many Londoners as possible to fill in this census, to maximise the amount of money that their local health authority and their local council have to spend on services for the most vulnerable in this capital.
OK, on that note, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this today.